So I want to talk about DMZ and why I think it could be one of the best game modes in Call of Duty for many years to come. If you didn't see the video I made about DMZ a few weeks back after the gameplay was first released from that live event, I basically talked about how DMZ honestly looked pretty bad and it was very underwhelming, but after playing it for the last couple weeks, I have to say I'm very impressed. And if you're interested in more DMZ tips, tricks, and guides, this is the best place for it, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. But after getting hands-on with DMZ since it released, like I said earlier, I'm very impressed with the game mode, and I think it has a very promising future if Activision and Infinity Ward and all the devs working on it continue to keep it updated. I think the core gameplay overall is super fun. I also really do like the balance between AI and other players. I think there's enough AI around the map to keep it interesting and not make it so you go a long time without getting into any fights, but there's also enough players on the map where sometimes you might not run into anybody, but sometimes you might run into a ton of teams in one game. And when it comes to the missions and the factions, I think this is also a really nice feature in the game. I think so far there are a lot of missions in the game that seem to be really fun. Some take time, some you can do with squad members, which is super cool. And I recently just started a full-time job, so I haven't had as much time to play this past week as I did the first week the game came out. So I'm not really sure exactly how many missions there are in DMZ, but so far I think for the average player, not one who is playing all day every day, not one who plays super often, I think there is plenty of content right now in the game. If you're a streamer or someone who maybe might not have a job, like let's say I did a couple weeks back when it first came out, I was able to play a ton right when it first came out and get a lot of gameplay and get into it a lot. But if you're just like an average person who plays Call of Duty, let's say maybe a couple hours a night, or maybe only a few days a week, I think there's plenty of gameplay here in DMZ. But I think the big talking point is kind of expanding upon the economy, the looting systems, and the items in the game. Obviously DMZ is not a perfect game mode, I'm not trying to say that at all, but I do think it has a great foundation for a promising future. But it definitely needs some sort of economy, whether it be traders or items having a value or a use outside of the game when you extract with them. It's nice getting XP, it's nice lowering your insurance slot cooldown and all that when you extract with items and cash, but I want to be able to use that outside the game to maybe buy better things for my loadout, or maybe increase my stash size, increase my key stash size, all that sorts of thing. And despite all the bugs and glitches and those kind of issues we've been seeing with DMZ, I mean, on all of my videos, on every single guide I've posted so far, I've had people in the comments basically saying, hey, I did this and it didn't work. So unfortunately there are a lot of bugs and glitches within DMZ, which is to be expected being as it's the first time the game mode is being released. So it is annoying, but I do think once they get that sorted out and they start adding in more missions, a way to use your money and your items outside of the actual in-game experience, I think overall this game mode is super promising, and I can see this being a real competitor to the likes of Escape from Tarkov. I think if you want a hardcore experience, DMZ is not going to be for you, but if you want a more casual experience, maybe one that's a little bit more similar to Warzone in the way it feels and sometimes the way it plays out, DMZ is a super fun way to kind of get that. And I think for Call of Duty players, Call of Duty players tend to like faster paced, not as in-depth, not as detailed as something like Tarkov would be. I think DMZ is walking that fine line and actually has a very good part of the market that'd be interested in the way DMZ works. Basically, my big takeaways for DMZ is this game mode is super fun right now. Once you complete all the missions that are available currently, like I said, I'm not sure how many there are, but once you complete all those, I'm sure it will get kind of boring. But I think right now it seems like a pretty good state. The gameplay and the flow overall seems pretty good. Once they fix bugs and once they add more ways to use loot and money outside of the in-game experience, I think overall this game mode is actually going to be pretty incredible. I've been very surprised, and I know they've been working on DMZ for apparently like 3 or 5 years. They were trying to launch it, I think, with Modern Warfare 2019, which obviously did not happen. But I think overall it can be a real competitor to Warzone as long as they continue to treat it as highly as Warzone. Warzone is obviously like the golden child for Activision and all the developers, but if they can treat DMZ in a similar light to Warzone, I don't think they'll treat it as much as Warzone just because of how much of a moneymaker Warzone tends to be. But DMZ is also free to play, and I can see them really focusing on this because I do think the looter shooter extraction game mode genre, like DMZ, like Tarkov, like the cycle, is one that is growing and will continue to grow in coming years. Like I said earlier, make sure to sub to the channel for more DMZ tips, tricks, and guides. Going to be trying to put out more content as much as I can. And also, if you're watching the World Cup, let me know down below. I've been watching pretty much every game, so let me know what country you're supporting. I'm obviously supporting the US, but I would love to hear what anyone else has to, say about the World Cup and the countries they're supporting. And with all that being said, make sure to drop a like, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.